Let's start. MTC 1239 number 18. Dear Professor Sanchez. Sanchez. My name is Ellis White, and I'm the director of the Alexandria Science Museum. Ellis White, Alexandria. We are holding a chemistry fair for local middle school students on Saturday, October 28, 1028. The goal of the fair is to encourage them to be interested in science through guided experiments. We are looking for college students who can help with the experiments during the event. I am contacting you to ask you to recommend some students from the chemistry department at your college who you think are qualified for this job. With their help, I'm sure the participants will have a great experience. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sincerely, Ellis White. Ellis White. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1239 number 19. Greg and I had been rock climbing since sunrise and had had no problems. Greg. So we took a risk. Look, the first bolt is right there. I can definitely climb out to it. Piece of cake, I persuaded Greg, minutes before I found myself pinned. Greg. It wasn't a piece of cake. The rock was deceptively barren of handholds. I clumsily moved back and forth across the cliff face and ended up with nowhere to go, but down. The bolt that would save my life, if I could get to it, was about 2 feet above my reach. 2. My arms trembled from exhaustion. I looked at Greg. Greg. My body froze with fright from my neck down to my toes. Our rope was tied between us. If I fell, he would fall with me. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1239 number 20. We are always teaching our children something by our words and our actions. They learn from seeing. They learn from hearing and from overhearing. Children share the values of their parents about the most important things in life. Our priorities and principles and our examples of good behavior can teach our children to take the high road when other roads look tempting. Remember that children do not learn the values that make up strong character simply by being told about them. They learn by seeing the people around them act on and uphold those values in their daily lives. Therefore, show your child good examples of life by your action. In our daily lives, we can show our children that we respect others. We can show them our compassion and concern when others are suffering, and our own self-discipline, courage, and honesty as we make difficult decisions. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1239 number 21. Most people have no doubt heard this question. If a tree falls in the forest and there is no one there to hear it fall, does it make a sound? The correct answer is no. Sound is more than pressure waves, and indeed there can be no sound without a hearer. And similarly, scientific communication is a two-way process. Just as a signal of any kind is useless unless it is perceived, a published scientific paper, signal, is useless unless it is both received and understood by its intended audience. Thus we can restate the axiom of science as follows. A scientific experiment is not complete until the results have been published and understood. Publication is no more than pressure waves unless the published paper is understood. Too many scientific papers fall silently in the woods. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1239 number 22. We all negotiate every day, whether we realize it or not. Yet few people ever learn how to negotiate. Those who do usually learn the traditional, win-lose negotiating style rather than an approach that is likely to result in a win-win agreement. This old-school, adversarial approach may be useful in a one-off negotiation where you will probably not deal with that person again. However, such transactions are becoming increasingly rare, because most of us deal with the same people repeatedly: our spouses and children, our friends and colleagues, our customers and clients. In view of this, it's essential to achieve successful results for ourselves and maintain a healthy relationship with our negotiating partners at the same time. In today's interdependent world of business partnerships and long-term relationships, a win-win outcome is fast becoming the only acceptable result. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1239 number 23. The interaction of workers from different cultural backgrounds with the host population might increase productivity due to positive externalities like knowledge spillovers. This is only an advantage up to a certain degree. When the variety of backgrounds is too large, fractionalization may cause excessive transaction costs for communication, which may lower productivity. Diversity not only impacts the labor market, but may also affect the quality of life in a location. A tolerant native population may value a multicultural city or region because of an increase in the range of available goods and services. On the other hand, diversity could be perceived as an unattractive feature if natives perceive it as a distortion of what they consider to be their national identity. They might even discriminate against other ethnic groups, and they might fear that social conflicts between different foreign nationalities are imported into their own neighborhood. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 24. We think we are shaping our buildings. But really, our buildings and development are also shaping us. One of the best examples of this is the oldest known construction, the ornately carved rings of standing stones at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Göbekli Tepe. Before these ancestors got the idea to erect standing stones some 12,000 years ago, they were hunter-gatherers. 12,000. It appears that the erection of the multiple rings of megalithic stones took so long, and so many successive generations, that these innovators were forced to settle down to complete the construction works. In the process, they became the first farming society on Earth. This is an early example of a society constructing something that ends up radically remaking the society itself. Things are not so different in our own time. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 26. American jazz pianist Bill Evans was born in New Jersey in 1929. Bill Evans 1929. His early training was in classical music. At the age of 6, he began receiving piano lessons, later adding flute and violin. 6. He earned bachelor's degrees in piano and music education from Southeastern Louisiana College in 1950. 1950 Southeastern Louisiana. He went on to serve in the Army from 1951 to 1954 and played flute in the 5th Army Band. 1951-1945. After serving in the military, he studied composition at the Mann School of Music in New York. Mann School of Music. Composer George Russell admired his playing and hired Evans to record and perform his compositions. George Russell Evans. Evans became famous for recordings made from the late 1950s through the 1960s. Evans 1950-1960. He won his first Grammy Award in 1964 for his album Conversations with Myself. Conversations with Myself 1964. Evans' expressive piano works and his unique harmonic approach inspired a whole generation of musicians. Evans. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 29. There is a reason the title Monday Morning Quarterback exists. Monday Morning Quarterback. Just read the comments on social media from fans discussing the weekend's games, and you quickly see how many people believe they could play, coach, and manage sport teams more successfully than those on the field. This goes for the boardroom as well. Students and professionals with years of training and specialized degrees in sport business may also find themselves being given advice on how to do their jobs from friends, family, or even total strangers without any expertise. Executives in sport management have decades of knowledge and experience in their respective fields. However, many of them face criticism from fans and community members telling them how to run their business. Very few people tell their doctor how to perform surgery or their accountant how to prepare their taxes, but many people provide feedback on how sport organizations should be managed. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 30. While moving is difficult for everyone, it is particularly stressful for children. They lose their sense of security and may feel disoriented when their routine is disrupted and all that is familiar is taken away. Young children, ages 3 to 6, are particularly affected by a move. 3-6. Their understanding at this stage is quite literal, and it is difficult for them to imagine beforehand a new home and their new room. Young children may have worries such as, will I still be me in the new place? And will my toys and bed come with us? It is important to establish a balance between validating children's past experiences and focusing on helping them adjust to the new place. Children need to have opportunities to share their backgrounds in a way that respects their past as an important part of who they are. This contributes to building a sense of community, which is essential for all children, especially those in transition. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 31. Many people are terrified to fly in airplanes. Often, this fear stems from a lack of control. The pilot is in control, not the passengers, and this lack of control instills fear. Many potential passengers are so afraid they choose to drive great distances to get to a destination instead of flying. But their decision to drive is based solely on emotion, not logic. Logic says that statistically, the odds of dying in a car crash are around 1 in 5,000, while the odds of dying in a plane crash are closer to 1 in 11 million. 5,0001, 1,1001. If you're going to take a risk, especially one that could possibly involve your well-being, wouldn't you want the odds in your favor? However, most people choose the option that will cause them the least amount of anxiety. Pay attention to the thoughts you have about taking the risk and make sure you are basing your decision on facts, not just feelings. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 32. The famous primatologist Franz de Waal, of Emory University, says humans downplay similarities between us and other animals as a way of maintaining our spot at the top of our imaginary ladder. Emory Franz de Waal. Scientists, de Waal points out, can be some of the worst offenders employing technical language to distance the other animals from us. De Waal. They call kissing in chimps mouth-to-mouth contact, they call friends between primates favorite affiliation partners, they interpret evidence showing that crows and chimps can make tools as being somehow qualitatively different from the kind of tool-making said to define humanity. If an animal can beat us at a cognitive task like how certain bird species can remember the precise locations of thousands of seeds, they write it off as instinct, not intelligence. This and so many more tricks of language are what de Waal has termed linguistic castration. De Waal. The way we use our tongues to disempower animals, the way we invent words to maintain our spot at the top. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 33. A key to engagement and achievement is providing students with relevant texts they will be interested in. My scholarly work and my teaching have been deeply influenced by the work of Rosalie Fink. Rosalie Fink. She interviewed 12 adults who were highly successful in their work, including a physicist, a biochemist, and a company CEO. All of them had dyslexia and had had significant problems with reading throughout their school years. While she expected to find that they had avoided reading and discovered ways to bypass it or compensate with other strategies for learning, she found the opposite. To my surprise, I found that these dyslexics were enthusiastic readers, they rarely avoided reading. On the contrary, they sought out books. The pattern Fink discovered was that all of her subjects had been passionate in some personal interest. Fink. The areas of interest included religion, math, business, science, history, and biography. What mattered was that they read voraciously to find out more. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 34. For many people, ability refers to intellectual competence, so they want everything they do to reflect how smart they are: writing a brilliant legal brief, getting the highest grade on a test, writing elegant computer code, saying something exceptionally wise or witty in a conversation. You could also define ability in terms of a particular skill or talent, such as how well one plays the piano, learns a language, or serves a tennis ball. Some people focus on their ability to be attractive, entertaining, up on the latest trends, or to have the newest gadgets. However ability may be defined, a problem occurs when it is the sole determinant of one's self-worth. The performance becomes the only measure of the person, nothing else is taken into account. An outstanding performance means an outstanding person, an average performance means an average person. Period. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 Number 35. Sensory nerves have specialized endings in the tissues that pick up a particular sensation. If, for example, you step on a sharp object such as a pin, nerve endings in the skin will transmit the pain sensation up your leg, up and along the spinal cord to the brain. While the pain itself is unpleasant, it is in fact acting as a protective mechanism for the foot. Within the brain, nerves will connect to the area that controls speech, so that you may well shout ouch or something rather less polite. They will also connect to motor nerves that travel back down the spinal cord, and to the muscles in your leg that now contract quickly to lift your foot away from the painful object. Sensory and motor nerves control almost all functions in the body, from the beating of the heart to the movement of the gut, sweating, and just about everything else. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 36. Maybe you've heard this joke, how do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. So, how do you build the earth? That's simple, too, one atom at a time. Atoms are the basic building blocks of crystals, and since all rocks are made up of crystals, the more you know about atoms, the better. Crystals come in a variety of shapes that scientists call habits. Common crystal habits include squares, triangles, and six-sided hexagons. Usually crystals form when liquids cool, such as when you create ice cubes. Many times, crystals form in ways that do not allow for perfect shapes. If conditions are too cold, too hot, or there isn't enough source material, they can form strange, twisted shapes. But when conditions are right, we see beautiful displays. Usually, this involves a slow, steady environment where the individual atoms have plenty of time to join and fit perfectly into what's known as the crystal lattice. This is the basic structure of atoms that is seen time after time. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 37. When you pluck a guitar string, it moves back and forth hundreds of times every second. Naturally, this movement is so fast that you cannot see it, you just see the blurred outline of the moving string. Strings vibrating in this way on their own make hardly any noise because strings are very thin and don't push much air about. But if you attach a string to a big hollow box, like a guitar body, then the vibration is amplified and the note is heard loud and clear. The vibration of the string is passed on to the wooden panels of the guitar body, which vibrate back and forth at the same rate as the string. The vibration of the wood creates more powerful waves in the air pressure, which travel away from the guitar. When the waves reach your eardrums, they flex in and out the same number of times a second as the original string. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 38. Boundaries between work and home are blurring as portable digital technology makes it increasingly possible to work anywhere, anytime. Individuals differ in how they like to manage their time to meet work and outside responsibilities. Some people prefer to separate or segment roles so that boundary crossings are minimized. For example, these people might keep separate email accounts for work and family and try to conduct work at the workplace and take care of family matters only during breaks and non-work time. We've even noticed more of these segmenters carrying two phones, one for work and one for personal use. Flexible schedules work well for these individuals because they enable greater distinction between time at work and time in other roles. Other individuals prefer integrating work and family roles all day long. This might entail constantly trading text messages with children from the office, or monitoring emails at home and on vacation, rather than returning to work to find hundreds of messages in their inbox. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 39. A complementary good is a product that is often consumed alongside another product. For example, popcorn is a complementary good to a movie, while a travel pillow is a complementary good for a long plane journey. When the popularity of one product increases, the sales of its complementary good also increase. By producing goods that complement other products that are already, or about to be, popular, you can ensure a steady stream of demand for your product. Some products enjoy perfect complementary status; they have to be consumed together, such as a lamp and a light bulb. However, do not assume that a product is perfectly complementary, as customers may not be completely locked into the product. For example, although motorists may seem required to purchase gasoline to run their cars, they can switch to electric cars. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 40. It's not news to anyone that we judge others based on their clothes. In general, studies that investigate these judgments find that people prefer clothing that matches expectations: surgeons in scrubs, little boys in blue, with one notable exception. A series of studies published in an article in June 2014 in the Journal of Consumer Research explored observers' reactions to people who broke established norms only slightly. Journal of Consumer Research 20146. In one scenario, a man at a black tie affair was viewed as having higher status and competence when wearing a red bow tie. The researchers also found that valuing uniqueness increased audience members' ratings of the status and competence of a professor who wore red sneakers while giving a lecture. The results suggest that people judge these slight deviations from the norm as positive because they suggest that the individual is powerful enough to risk the social costs of such behaviors. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 4142. Claims that local food production cut greenhouse gas emissions by reducing the burning of transportation fuel are usually not well founded. Transport is the source of only 11% of greenhouse gas emissions within the food sector, so reducing the distance that food travels after it leaves the farm is far less important than reducing wasteful energy use on the farm. 1. Food coming from a distance can actually be better for the climate, depending on how it was grown. For example, field-grown tomatoes shipped from Mexico in the winter months will have a smaller carbon footprint than local winter tomatoes grown in a greenhouse. In the United Kingdom, lamb meat that travels 11,000 miles from New Zealand generates only 1/4 the carbon emissions per pound compared to British lamb because farmers in the United Kingdom raise their animals on feed, which must be produced using fossil fuels, rather than on clover pasture land. 11,0004. When food does travel, what matters most is not the distance traveled but the travel mode, surface versus air, and most of all the load size. Bulk loads of food can travel halfway around the world by ocean freight with a smaller carbon footprint, per pound delivered, than foods traveling just a short distance but in much smaller loads. For example, 18-wheelers carry much larger loads than pickup trucks so they can move food 100 times as far while burning only 1/3 as much gas per pound of food delivered. 183100. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC. 1239 number 4345. Long ago, an old man built a grand temple at the center of his village. People traveled to worship at the temple. So the old man made arrangements for food and accommodation inside the temple itself. He needed someone who could look after the temple, so he put up a notice, "Manager needed." Seeing the notice, many people went to the old man. But he returned all the applicants after interviews, telling them, "I need a qualified person for this work." The old man would sit on the roof of his house every morning, watching people go through the temple doors. One day, he saw a young man come to the temple. When that young man left the temple, the old man called him and asked, "Will you take care of this temple?" The young man was surprised by the offer and replied, "I have no experience caring for a temple. I'm not even educated." The old man smiled and said, "I don't want any educated man. I want a qualified person." Confused, the young man asked, "But why do you consider me a qualified person?" The old man replied, "I buried a brick on the path to the temple. I watched for many days as people tripped over that brick. No one thought to remove it. But you dug up that brick." The young man said, "I haven't done anything great. It's the duty of every human being to think about others. I only did my duty." The old man smiled and said, "Only people who know their duty and perform it are qualified people." MTC. Good job.